Free, fair, and safe elections have been a prominent subject of controversy over the past 6 years across the United States. They're some of the most vital components of American democracy and our legitimacy as a nation. Today, we will discuss the seemingly never ending allegations of election rigging across America, how we got to our current state of vast misinformation in the media, charging this surge of allegations, and what can be done to fix Americans' concerns regarding election safety and integrity. Today, I'm joined by my best friend Rish to further discuss these topics. Rish, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you, Arjun?
I'm doing fantastic. So, the first question that I was thinking about regarding a topic like this was, what does election integrity like really mean, and what is the importance of election integrity, right? So preventing fraud within the elections, ensuring the votes are counted for these elections, protecting voter access in areas like more impoverished areas, or even for example in more rural areas, which are losing like access to voting stations. Those are problems across the board, across the nation, affecting both people on the left and the right, um, and kind of lead people to question the validity of results or beliefs about politicians in our current state of politics, I guess. What do you think?
I think the biggest thing that we need to talk about when we talk about fraud is what fraud even covers. So, like, when
Hmm.
people say like voter fraud, they're kind of blurring together like a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
Like someone voting twice, someone voting under a dead person's name,
yeah,
a non citizen voting, or like any other types of things. So, I think we need to talk about like what like how rare these sorts of like voter fraud actually is.
yeah.
So I actually found this article that talked about how this Loyola law professor Justin Levitt, he found just 31 credible instances of voter impersonation fraud out
Hmm.
of more than 1 billion ballots votes cast between 2000 and 2014.
Yeah.
And so when we look at this like the statistic, it shows to comparison, it like shows and reveals how rare voter fraud actually is.
Hmm.
And so, just like talk about that.
Yeah. So I guess I also saw another source. My source was different than yours, obviously, but I've seen a lot of things about the Heritage Foundation. Obviously, right leaning, I guess, information tank. But even they were looking at and trying to discover voter fraud, and they only were able to find 77 instances of undocumented voters over the past 24 years in federal elections, which is a really, really small percent of votes that are casted in these elections, right? Like, what in our last our Trump Harris election, there were easily over 140 million votes, right? So what is 77 votes in that percentage, right? It's so infinitesimal that it's just not something that we need to be worried about exactly, but it's something that's incredibly blown out of proportion, an issue that's blown out of proportion, um, vastly by people in the media.
I completely agree. And I also just I don't want to show any bias here. I want to talk about like more than just one side.
Hmm.
And so, like our side, I mean, not our side. I don't mess with like identity politics or anything,
Yeah,
but there's more than two sides to every coin.
yeah,
But right now this other side is saying that maybe like I looked at the source that said that the Heritage Foundation's election fraud database held over 1500 proven cases of election fraud, and like when you look at two different things saying two different things, how do you pick one or the other? Like,
yeah.
what do you look at to make sure one is right or one is not? And so I actually did the work and I found out that this says that the database is not exhaustive or comprehensive and
Hmm.
that it is meant to show that fraud is possible, but not that it's widespread.
Yeah,
So I think when we look at this bipartisan issue of voter fraud, we Democrats and Republicans alike can agree that it's not whether fraud exists or not. It's whether about how often it happens to change who wins. And I think in this case, when it shows that only 1,500 proven cases out of a billion or multiple billions of ballots, I think it shows like how little this matters, and how um, like you said, infinitesimal, how small a number it is to actually show that it impacts who wins or not.
I totally agree. I think that um you know people in politics right now are kind of saying left right, And I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is people who deny facts, right? I don't have an issue with anyone who politically disagrees with me, right? Like a real deep issue with them. What my issue is when there's evidence of a claim, right? And they just like and if there's facts on an issue that you just deny, right? How can anyone convince you of anything? How can you change your opinion? How can you learn about what's actually happening in the media, right? And that kind of leads to like the decline in trust in our elections and I would say that also has to do with like you know I would say out of all right-wing media, in my opinion, I think Fox is among one of the worst. Also things like Newsmax and those kind of large corporations that have a lot of influence on the right. And I don't think it's exactly like it's not hurting everyone on the right. Obviously, like there are so many sensible people that you can talk to on the right, and I just think that even on the left, I'll just stop saying right left like that. Even on the left, right, when people come out and say something like the election, like the 2024 election was rigged because Kamala Harris didn't win, that's crazy, right? There's no like everyone on the left in 2020 and beyond was judging the right for these claims and accusations, but now because our side, quote unquote our side, lost, we're gonna go and blame the other guys. We're gonna say they cheated now. I just think that it's I think it's crazy when we just deny the reality of these situations, right? Like Biden was leaving office very unpopular, right? Kamala Harris ran on a very similar platform, and basically said that she thought that Biden did a good job. She wouldn't really change anything with what he did in the election, right? So maybe that led to her losing, right? Not cheating across the election, across losing all swing states, right? We think that Trump stole all swing states across the country. I don't think that's what the issue is.
I think no. I think the issue is definitely her lack of like preparedness because Biden dropped out of the race so late. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was her campaign in general.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I agree. I don't like how people saying, "Oh, whenever we lose, the other side must have cheated." Like that happens time and time again.
Yeah.
And based on like what we've seen so far, like voter fraud, it's not that big of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not something that we can say or like blame. I think we should blame the American people. As a matter of fact, I think the lack of responsibility and accountability we hold for the American people for currently voting for our current president is absurd.
Yeah.
It's egregious,
I
and I
think
think we
yeah.
definitely need to put more responsibility and accountability towards those Americans who did
I, I
unfortunately vote for that man.
I agree. I think it's changed a bit, right? I hate that we got to this point, but I kind of understand it, which kind of sucks, right? Like I know that this guy, like we'll talk about this later, but obviously everyone knows that Trump is not a good person, right? Like but people like voters don't exactly care in a lot of instances, right? I'm just trying to think about it like in the most empathetic way possible, right? If I'm a poor American and I don't think I'm doing as well as I used to be doing, and everyone in the media is shouting, this was Biden, Biden did this, Kamala's just going to be another Biden, right? What am I going to do? Am I going to vote for the guy who's saying that there's going to be change? He's listing a bunch of things, even if I don't know what these things are, right? He's listing options that aren't what's happening. And the other side's response is, no, I like what that person did. I like what Biden did. I support their platform. I support their campaign. I support what they did, right? That's not gonna like that's an easy answer for people who are struggling at a time like that, right? That's why the empathy for me comes in. It's just I think there's a level of responsibility that needs to be put on the American people, but I also think the large amount of mis and disinformation that's spread across these large media corporations is really a problem that needs to get addressed and talked about a bit more.
Yeah, I completely agree. But going back to voter fraud, when you look at the prevention, Arjun, how exactly do we prevent voter fraud?
So, I right I for preventing voter fraud, I mean, we could say all this like do you mean like how can we regain the people's trust, or do you mean like how can we actually prevent voter fraud?
I think like how can we make sure, like, use the boring machinery to make sure that uh like it shows that the system isn't just trusting people, to be honest.
I mean, I think I think showing how the votes are counted may allow for greater transparency, right? I think people question the legitimacy of these elections because they don't know how ballots are counted. They don't know how um like all these like even if they do, right? Having multiple forms of voting does not make it easier for people to trust these kinds of systems, right? If you have if you just go in and hand a ballot versus people mailing in ballots, right? If you know nothing about like anything, I'm just gonna say it like that. If you don't know how like any of these systems work, right? And you just if you don't know how these systems work, it's easier to say that because someone's not right there voting in front of like in front of someone in a booth at a polling station or at a voting station that they're more likely to cheat, right? Like that makes sense logically speaking, right? But like I don't know. What do you think? What do you think?
You know, I think there are a lot of different ways that we can prevent fraud, but I think the biggest way what we're doing right now is the ERIC, or the Electronic Registration Information Center.
Hmm.
And I think it's honestly a really good way on like how to prevent voter fraud in the very few ways that we like that it exists.
Yeah.
I like it because it's like nonpartisan, nonprofit, and it's just like it's designed to flag people who've moved, died, registered in more than one state, and it actually works because there was a study in 2012. It was the study that actually launched the ERIC, or the Electronic Registration Information Center, and it found that roughly 1 in 8 voter registrations were invalid or significantly inaccurate. And so I think in that scale, um, I think it'll be a good way to like prevent this voter fraud,
Hmm.
and it actually does work at scale. I mean, like North Carolina, they removed over 747,000 ineligible records from its rolls since January 2023,
Hmm.
or about 1,200 a day. So I think it's just proven, you know, like time and time again, that it works. It's like the main tool to prevent voter fraud,
Yeah.
and I think it's a good way to you know go beyond people's trust and actually show that people are who they are.
Yeah. I think these kinds of systems need to become more public in the sense of like in the sense that people should like politicians maybe should talk about this a little bit more. You know what I mean? Cuz I think this is some like that kind of information is something that you have to look for, and I understand that um I personally think it shouldn't be that way. Like I think that people should have more accessible information. Obviously, you could just go online and find these kinds of facts, right? But what I think is that people need to be explained this at a very young age. You know what I mean? Like I don't think springing this onto someone at 30 years old is gonna change their opinion, right? If you tell them that these registrate like states are going through people who vote in their state and are like, hey, this person's dead. They can't vote. They can't be a person who's voting anymore. So take them off the list, right? So I feel like that's something that needs to be taught in like civics 101. You know what I mean? Like these kinds of problems that lead to, or not problems, I guess, but like the lack of knowledge that leads to distrust in our elections may is it common sense? I would say yes, but does it have an effect on how people trust in these like in these super contentious, super polarizing situations that we find ourselves in now, right? I don't think it does enough to just publish it online, even if you're a big organization. I think politicians should be talking about this more on both sides of the aisle, and call out people who just don't believe in facts. I think that's the biggest problem, right? Denying the reality of denying facts. I think that's a very big problem. So I think another thing I wanted to talk about was it kind of continues with this whole distrust thing, right? But I think this is more directly towards I guess this is a little more targeted towards Trump, right? So um I think it's so there's a loss of trust, but not only trust, but like people kind of have a little more of a uh aimless kind of following, I would say, for Trump than other candidates that have previously ran, right? I don't think Mitt Romney is getting this kind of support, right? I think some of it has to do with who Trump really is and his character and things of that sort, right? That differentiate him as a candidate, which is why I think he won two elections, right? So but I think the fact that Trump incited a literal insurrection on the Capitol, uh, and then after the insurrection and like the denying of the past election, and then 60 courts striking down those cases and finding that there wasn't voter fraud or there wasn't enough evidence to prove that there was fraud at the capacity that was claimed. I I don't like that sort of evidence not being strong enough to convince people like Trump loyalists, I would say, is kind of concerning to me, right? Like what can you do to convince someone who's that far, I would argue, gone at that point, right? What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think a lot of people. I think the philosophical aspect behind this sort of like inability to change your views comes from a sense of comfort and a sense of I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't want to admit that I'm wrong,
Yeah.
and so they feel the need to like stick with this even though they might feel as though it's wrong,
Hmm.
but they can't like consider being wrong. Like I've had interactions with a lot of people, whether it be political, apolitical, or not, that just refuse to change their argument, whether or not like they're right or wrong. Like I've countless times proven to them like people are wrong, but like it's just their inability to accept the fact that they are wrong. Like be the bigger person, be the better person there, and just like humbly admit that you're wrong. So I think that's the sort of like the attitude aspect of how most people like Trump loyalists admit, because all the information is right in front of them. They just refuse to be informed, and I think it's part of the ignorance is bliss. It's better to be I mean, yeah, like a lot of people will stay ignorant to stay happy,
Yeah.
and I think it's this sort of mindset that keeps people in the dark because they want to be, because it's hard to confront the truth. But with me, I'd rather be miserable and educated than ignorant and happy.
Yeah, I think it's significantly better to be aware of what's truly going on in our country and know, like, be aware of it and be able to react to it rather than just following someone aimlessly. I agree with you, right? And what I also think that, like, for example, in Georgia, during 2020, when Trump asked Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, to find over 11,000 votes to try and overturn the election, right? I think like people who can follow someone like that after it happens, like not to mention like the the sexual assaults, like that's just, I guess that's more character disqualifying, right? There's also him being on record of, I don't know, the article that shows that he's lied over 37,000 times, which is old as well, right? That's an old article, outdated. It's probably significantly more now. Like if these realities are in the public, um about how a president tried to overturn an election and people don't care, and then after, obviously after trying to overturn the election, fueling an incite on on the election, like trying to, I don't know, man. It makes me stammer for words. Like I don't know what can you do to someone who's that, I would say, lost in that moment. Um, I'm not sure. I'm really not
I
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't see a way in which you can convince someone, you know.
Yeah.
You mean I like to say no one knows more than the person who doesn't know anything. Like people who don't know anything are very confident that they're right without having done the research, and they will refuse to admit they're wrong. So I mean, it's really hard to try to convince them that they are.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to talk about how it's changed, like what Trump now does to people who challenge him at any capacity, right? So, for example, right, just today, let's just skip to today first, right? Today, this is what, June 15th. Trump and the DOJ are now investigating Gavin Newsom and his family. Not just him, but his family, right? Trump, or not Trump, sorry, Gavin Newsom is making stupid shit posts online and like bullying Trump for everything he's doing in the country right now. And his what he's deciding to do to respond to that is use the government, right? Use his power to attack them, right? Other examples are the Thomas Massie primary, right, where he backed the challenger to Thomas Massie in his race, and he lost by I think 10% in that race. And then in Indiana, right, the all the GOP candidates who didn't vote for the redistricting that Trump was asking for, they all got, not all, sorry, I think it was five out of the seven incumbents lost their elections, right? Because Trump backed the other candidate or another candidate. And I think it's just like, I think it's crazy that not only is it on the other side of the aisle that if you challenge him, you could get punished, it's within his own party, you're not allowed to question his authority or else he'll get rid of you, right? And what is someone in Congress going to do, right? If Thomas Massie is the only person, not only, but one of the only Republicans who is obviously he's I would say he is someone who's a true Republican, right? He has a voter record very very close to what Trump wants, right? But he is against him on things like the Epstein files. He wants real transparency, right? So he's willing to vote across party lines. And what happens as a result is you get primaried. That's going to put all the people who are relying on this job, I know relying on this job while in Congress, and it's a little funny to say, but people who want that security and want to keep serving in Congress, they're just going to fall in line with him, which we saw that be like, that was happening less, I would say, not earlier, but I guess earlier this year, people were starting to defy him a little bit. He had a little bit less power, but I think now he's kind of gotten a little bit more of a grasp on the party again, because they're now seeing maybe the picks that he has put up, right? The GOP candidates who beat the incumbents, maybe they'll win, maybe they'll lose, right? But you're out of a seat. So they're losing their jobs no matter they're losing their job no matter what. And that's all Trump cares about. He doesn't entirely care about everyone winning. He wants the people who wronged him or are challenging him out. So he's really getting whatever he wants in that situation, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you look at Sunday. I mean, you look at his birthday. He held a UFC fight event at the White House.
It's ridiculous.
He stopped fighters who disagreed with him. Like publicly came out. Stood against him. He refused for them to come. And one of the biggest nights in UFC, like events. But I mean, like it's crazy to see how much he can get away with, and that like the way he can manipulate others to, get what he wants. But I think that's just the epidemic of the white man in America.
Yeah, I think it's becoming such a crazy issue to have. Like no other country is going through what we're going through right now, and or at least like the extent to which it's going through, and like American foreign influence. Like just it's just crazy that we've gotten to this guy has started conflicts with 7 countries since he's been in office, dude. Seven
And
countries.
it's
Seven
been what, a
countries.
year,
That
year
is
or two?
ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I I mean, Biden in in 2 more years than him had conflicts with 5. Some of them we were already in, obviously, just like you could say for Trump. But like, I he's he attacked Iran. He stole the president of Venezuela, and now he's threatening Cuba, right? So And what is this peace deal with Iran probably going to last like a week or something? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I mean, he's had a bunch of quote unquote deals before that got destroyed, right? And I think, I mean, to help him out on that point though, I would say that it's not great to be in his position for the Iran things, even though he was gullible enough to bomb Iran. But I mean, if you look at polling in Israel as well, Netanyahu does significantly better when they're in conflict, right? Netanyahu does significantly better when they're in conflict with Iran and these other countries, right? Or fighting Hamas. He does significantly better. So if you're Netanyahu, who has an election in what, October? I think I think it's October. If you're Netanyahu in that position, who has a bad approval rating when you're not in a conflict, but you have a good approval rating when you're in a conflict, what are you going to choose to do if you want to stay in power? I mean, it's obvious that what he's going to try and do. And on the other end of that, Trump, even though he was gullible enough to start this war, I hope it's the case. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he wants to end the war. I mean, you're pushing.
That's generous.
I know.
It's generous,
I know
for
it's
sure.
generous, but I'm going to try and give him that. Even I'm going to be that nice. It's he put himself. I think his own stupidity did this, but I think he put himself in a position where he was so easily convinced that they were going to be in and out in such a small period of time, and now he's not able to escape the problem that he caused, right? Prices are up for goods, oil prices are up, inflation is up like 1% or more than 1% since Biden left. You know, you can't blame Biden for everything now. You don't have like a unemployment's up. You literally don't have anything to blame other than yourself at this point. And I think that is getting to him, and I think it's obviously getting to him because of these calls that are leaked with, or not calls that are leaked, I guess, but like the discussions that are leaked of him with in calls with Netanyahu screaming at each other, right? That, I mean, I've seen that twice now. At the absolute least, I've seen that twice happen. So he was dumb enough to get influenced into something like that, but now he doesn't have the opportunity to get out, and I think he's just got to bite the bullet on this one because America disagrees with him, and they don't like the conflict. It's an unpopular war.
Yeah, I would sure hope so. I'm not sure any war is popular amongst Americans, and I would sure hope that this one is not
Well, I
the
mean, some of them
exception.
are. Some of them, like technically, like
I
nine
mean,
eleven. The response for 9/11 that was popular, right? I mean, you could argue like World War One or two or whatever were popular, but I mean, obviously, like what Korean War, Vietnam, probably not the most popular of conflicts, if I had to guess. Um, but yeah,
I actually would argue those are more popular because the American was definitely for capitalism and definitely wanted to fight for capitalism more than like the other wars. I think the proxy wars happening during the Cold War were definitely more popular just because of its fight for capitalism against communism.
you think so? I don't know.
But
I think
I would think
I
so.
think I think people would want to. I don't know. I mean, I see the logic behind it, but I think that like those presidents didn't have very high approval ratings at those times. Like who was that? Was it I don't want to say the wrong president. I'm pretty sure they didn't have great approval ratings when we were in those conflicts. But I mean, when we were, for example, right after 9/11 with our response, right? And when we were going to respond, Bush's approval rating soared again. He was positive. They netted seats in Congress in the midterms, which has not happened in a very long time. So I mean, I'd make that argument. But I mean, regardless, I think uh your point still stands that war is not really not war's not great. And it's definitely not going to help our economy, and people aren't going to be satisfied um regardless of the outcome, win or lose, right now, I guess, at least, when you're putting us in a war that we don't need to be in, and everyone thinks you were gullible enough to go into the war in the first place. But yeah, um Do you have anything to add to that? Sorry.
Nah, it's all you, man. Carried away. I mean, yeah, I did look it up. I mean, at first, proxy wars were popular because of their, like their mission to stop communism. But like
Hmm.
as they continued, like you look at the Korean War, Vietnam War, those were initially popular, and then you look at the Afghan War and those in the 1980s to stop the Mujahideen. Like they initially were popular,
Hmm.
but they continue to decrease in their popularity as the war went on.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense.
I think I think what's currently going on in the Middle East is a lot different just because it's just not the same, mission that the United States had, however bad that was.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just can't see a way people support this man in any of his actions with what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess another question would be, how is this a threat to like the future of elections and things of that sort now? After Trump one has happened, right? Now Trump doesn't have anything to lose, right? That's why he's going after all of these politicians. That's why he's trying to primary people when he can. That's why he's using the DOJ against people like Newsom, right? So I would also say that he's using that I don't know. He's showing another part of himself that he didn't show before, because before there was another election. Before he didn't win twice, right? He had another opportunity to be here. So now he's milking it, right? Now he's doing the stock trading. Now he's made $4 billion while being in office. So there aren't really any guardrails keeping him to not do anything that he wants to do anymore, right? And that kind of also, I would say, makes me more concerned after the fight for the Capitol. I mean, literally, like an insurrection at the Capitol happening. So I don't know, man. I mean, like what do you think will happen in 2020? I mean, I would say 2026 and the midterms, and then in 2028. What do you think will happen?
I think honestly in 20 I mean we all can agree he's getting blown out in midterms. Like there's just no way he wins or like Republicans win at all.
Yeah.
Like I could probably put it on Kalshi. I put my life savings on the fact that he just does not win.
Yeah.
It'd be like putting it in a what? It'd be putting it like in a bond or something.
Yeah.
Like I can guarantee that he would not win the midterms. And I think a lot of people talk about how Trump 2028, he's going to run 2028. But honestly, with the way things are going right now, there's just like you said, there's nothing stopping him from doing what he wants.
Yeah.
Like I mean, especially with MAGA support behind him. Honestly, like the crowd, I think the crowd and like the population of the cult has definitely diminished.
Mhm.
But I think still any sort of support he gets for Trump 2028 it is incredibly dangerous. And I mean, looking ahead, I just don't know. I mean, high key, if we want Trump 2028, we'll have Mom Donnie
That
2028 too. Like
dude,
I'll be okay with
we
that.
gotta run. We gotta run Obama again. I think
For Obama, if he wants to.
if
I mean,
if he would do
sure.
that,
As long as he doesn't bomb the Middle East again, we will be fine.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I just, it's just I don't know, right? Because Trump is so unpopular with like literally everyone other than his like little, you know, MAGA. So I just don't like, even if he were to run again, if I'm being honest, I don't think he's popular enough within his own coalition to win. So, I mean,
Yeah, there's no way
obviously,
he wins like the RNC or like any sort of. There's no way he makes it to like the presidency, even if he does try to run again.
well, I think he has said this publicly many times. Time isn't on his side anymore either, right? He's what, 80th
Very
birthday
true.
that just
Yeah,
happened?
80th birthday Sunday
80th birthday
yesterday.
yesterday. He's becoming older. He's been talking about that. He's been saying that he doesn't think he's going to go to heaven. He's been talking about like death significantly more. So I don't know. I think if he was younger, I truly do believe this. I think if he was younger, he would try to mess with the next election. And even if he tries messing with the next election, sorry, that it won't be for him. Um, that said, though, I still have concern with it. I don't think he's gonna do anything in 2026. I don't, because I don't think he can. Right? I think his popularity has dwindled so much that I think it would be pretty controversial, even though he's already this bad, if he tried to pull some stunt off. I don't know. My guess would be if he were to do something, can't like stopping mail-in voting before the before 2026 would be my best guess. Um, because I mean that's my best guess, right? I think that that's
Yeah.
something that would he would be able to enact immediately, and there would be so much challenging between courts. He would take it to the Supreme Court or whatever, and he would just have time on his side, right? If he does it like a few days before the election, he would just have time on his side at that point. And if he were to do something like that, I could see maybe somehow an upset like that. But I think it's just I think 2026 is a wash, and if he were to do anything like insurrection esque, it would have to be in 2028, and it would have to be for someone that isn't him. Um,
I don't think he survives till 2028.
do I think he survives until 2028?
I don't think he makes it to 2028.
I think he does. I think he
I
does, but I think it's I don't know. He's getting old. There's a lot of symptoms, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can right now. I think he makes it. Uh, you know, I think if Biden was able to make it, and I think Biden's old, man, and I don't know exactly what all happened with his cancer diagnosis when that happened, but he was old. He battled cancer. I think the rate of the cancer he had was like it had a good percentage of people, like 99, or I could just be bullshitting, and I hope I'm not. Sorry if I am. But I think it's like 99% of people with that prostate cancer survive after 5 years, something along those lines. He is older though still, but I don't. I mean, I still don't think that it. I don't know. I think he's old, but I don't think he's at that point. I don't think he's old enough where it's affecting him yet. But I think if these health problems keep getting worse and worse, right? He's gone to um whatever the hospital is called. I forget the name. Um, the one that people look at on Twitter with the like tracking like the pizza orders. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not. What, pizza orders?
Yeah. So there's a hospital. Let me look it up right now actually because I need to I need to get my facts straight here. Um, capital. Let me see. Um, is it Walter Reed? Sorry. Okay, Walter Reed. Basically, there's like a lot of like I don't know what the correlation is, but I think there's like a lot of pizza joints around like Walter Reed or something like that. That there's like a correlation that people look at on Twitter. It's kind of bullshit, but they look at a correlation between like pizza orders and like a surge in pizza orders at an off hour correlating to like something either wrong with Trump being in like a hospital or like some like staff is up working on something, so like there's gonna be some sort of conflict abroad, something. There's some correlation that I've seen online about it. I'm not on Twitter very much, so obviously I don't know the exact logistics of that. But I know there's some correlation that people bring between those two things. um
Yeah, I can't say I know what you're talking about, but sounds interesting.
yeah, it's kind of it's a big thing that people speculate about. I'm gonna assume, and I think rightfully so, that that is usually wrong. That correlation, because I've seen a lot of things on Twitter about it. But I don't know. Twitter's kind of a weird place. Anyways,
Very credible source.
uh,
Very credible source.
yeah, that's where I got all this information from. So
Ah, yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
that's where I do my
Actually, no, I
research.
actually got. Yeah, I actually did all my research on Grok.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so I have a
sure helps.
question for you. So,
Of course.
how do you think that in our current state of politics, we can regain public trust in such a divisive, polarized state in our country? Right, we have polarization, like we have more. I guess it's more congressional polarization, where it's far left, far right. Not exactly, you know what I mean. But like the candidates in Congress are, more towards their party than there are like, a Southern Democrat or a more what am I trying to say? Like a Democratic conservative, right? That kind of stuff doesn't exist anymore. So, what would you say about how we can regain trust in public? How can we regain public trust in these kind of in elections?
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at like public confidence in an election, like I mean, you can run a clean election, count it right, let everyone vote, audit the whole thing, do whatever,
Hmm.
and still have half the country not believe in the result.
Yeah.
And so I think the concept that it explains everything. I did research on this. It's called losers consent. I'm sure, as a political science major, I'm sure you've heard this term,
Oh yeah.
losers consent. Yeah, I mean, like the idea of like democracy runs on a deal. Like the side that loses agrees to accept the result and stay loyal to the system. In exchange, you get to compete and win next time.
Hmm.
And I mean, the idea of losers' consent is good and everything, but I think it doesn't necessarily mean that the losing side has to like shut up or agree. I mean, like they should question, scrutinize, like critique everything, keep fighting for their position. But I think it requires like accepting the result peacefully, and I think pursuing change through legitimate means rather than overturning the outcome like we saw with our current president.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to, like I guess be that humble person and accept defeat when you lost.
Hmm.
And I think that I mean it's like very important to like I think a lot of people will like if the opposite side like if the losing side shows that they lost, I think a lot of people will follow that and see like, oh, my candidate like they went out of their way and went, oh, congrats to the winner, like I lost, like that's fair.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will go and like back up that candidate and be like, oh yeah, we lost, unfortunately we didn't get it done this year, maybe we can get it done midterms next election. But I understand the sort of like regret and sort of backlash that our last election received,
Yeah.
because I don't know how you can
How you can vote
like
for him twice?
I don't like how do you let that
Or
happen?
for
But like I
some
just
third
like
time. Some people voted for him a
I
third
think
time.
yeah, third time. Like I don't know how you do it. But like I just I don't know. I just think that like it's very important to like accept defeat when you have lost. I think that's a really good way to um like regain public confidence in like elections.
Hmm.
And I think I mean when you look at it, like it's frayed on both sides. Like the R Street lists like Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Stacey Abrams all as examples of floating illegitimacy claims or refusing to fully concede.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big problem.
Hmm.
And um, so I think like three of these things or like four of these things mostly working. Like we can prove the votes get counted, like we've checked. Like whether people believe it, like it's falling apart on purpose
Yeah.
because like the evidence says the elections are fine. A lot of people have decided not to believe the evidence. And so like it's just like when people don't believe evidence, just don't believe it because they choose not to. It's really hard to like sort of get that sort of you know losers consent.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's difficult because I think one of the points you addressed was basically people thinking that right, there's always a next election, right? That's what the like, as long as nothing goes wrong, there's always a next election. So I think people need to keep that in mind when thinking about the results of an election that you don't like, right? There's always going to be a next election that you can vote in and have your voice heard. You can always publicly go and state your opinions. You can go debate people. There's all these platforms for that. You can go protest for what you believe, and if you care, you go and vote, right? You go to all the elections that you can possibly go to. You go to your primaries, you go to your midterms, you go and you vote. um Another thing you mentioned, I will say that um I think there is a little bit of a difference between Hillary Clinton, uh I would say, like talking about the legitimacy of the election. I think there was a lot of. I think it's a little bit different. Let me explain my position. I
Yeah,
think
no, no.
it's different
Wait,
because
let me clarify. Let me clarify real quick. I mean, like there is definitely a line between like grumbling about a contested concession versus insurrecting the
yeah,
Capitol and
yeah,
filing 60 failed lawsuits. Like that's a big difference. Like I understand like there's a huge difference
yeah,
between those. I was just saying like both of them had like examples of illegitimate like claims.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, that's what I was gonna say. Like, Clinton had her claims about the election, but she conceded, right? Trump to this
Exactly.
day has not conceded that he lost in 2020. Isn't that scary? Like
that is incredibly
the
scary.
the current president can't concede. Not like now he's in power. He has the power now. He still can't say, "All right, maybe I lost 6 years ago, but I'm back." He's not saying that. He's still just saying
yeah,
that.
even after winning again, like you still can't concede.
What does he have to lose now? Like,
I think the only thing
it's
is
his
that,
ego.
like, people make fun of him. Yeah, right, his ego, but like
Yeah.
people make fun of him and be like, "Oh, the only times he lost was against a woman." I mean, we can talk about how like misogynistic that is, but like the fact that the only time he lost was 2 women is like it might like hurt his ego a little bit.
Well, the only times he won.
Yeah, the only times.
Yeah. And I mean, Biden in 2020 was also a weapon, man. I mean, having the Obama name, like being the VP of Obama running, helps you out a lot, man. I mean, he won Georgia, right? We don't really have Democrats winning Georgia nowadays. That's not really happening. But yeah, I mean, like like I understand. I think there's a little more, like, it makes a little more sense for someone like Hillary Clinton to be confused about an election result if you see that you've received over 2 million more votes versus someone losing in court 60 times. I just wanted to point that out, and clarify, try and clarify on your behalf. But yeah, I would also say that um I had a lot of time struggling with this question, right? How can we actually regain public trust um in a system where, if I think it's such a big problem, right? If I show someone the facts of a problem, right? And the facts are public, they're in public discourse all the time, but there's still denialism regarding the facts. What can I possibly do to gain that person's, like, what can I do to make it so that person trusts in elections, they trust data, they trust facts? What could I as a person do, or what can the world do if a candidate loses in court 60 times challenging an election, right? What how and they still to this day believe that there's suspicion, they're suspicious of the election results. They think that there's a chance that Trump won. What can you do to convince that person that the elections are safe and secure? What evidence is enough to convince someone like that an election is safe, that the elections have integrity, that people have proper access to these, I don't know. I don't think there's anything that we can do for someone like that.
I,
That's my opinion.
I think you threaten them. I think you threaten them with like the ability to take away their suffrage.
Okay.
I just think like, oh, if you don't believe me, I'm taking away your right to vote, and then you just have them not vote.
Okay.
Like, does that not work? Just be like, oh, just like you don't have the right to vote anymore if you don't believe me. I feel like that'd be such a huge thing. I mean,
we can't do
this or anything.
No, I know.
I'm not serious. I'm just saying, like, we literally, I don't know how these people vote. My vote, there's no way my vote counts.
No, we can't equate the votes. We can't equate them. But
no,
I do think that civic education needs to be discussed significantly more than it is. I think there needs to be, going through high school, more mandatory civics courses, more mandatory when your brain is actually able to process the information, right? Not third grade how a bill is passed with what are those videos called? I'm just a bill on Capitol. That kind of stuff. That's not gonna stick with someone when they're 18 and starting to vote, right? We need something right before someone's able to vote where you can actually like for men, demanosphere them, and just have true civic education. Like, that should be something mandatory in schools, right? And I think it also is part of our process of when people are running for president, I don't think there's enough like real pushback on people who lie, right? I think that in these debates, when someone is debating and just constantly lying, I think you need to say I think someone who is unbiased needs to say, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, I'm going to I'm going to fact check whatever you're saying. So if you lie, the public will know that you are a lying candidate. Like that needs to be more prevalent in our politics, and that not being something as prevalent as it should be is something that I think also leads to the extent to which the current president is allowed to or has historically lied to the capacity he has and been able to get away with it. Right? There's no level of accountability for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like confrontational politics a lot. I think I think we should just like embarrass the hell out of whoever's like losing.
I mean,
Just like
yeah.
put them on a stage, and have like 40,000 people just laugh at them for how like stupid they are. I
I
feel like that would work.
You know, the thing is, right? Like if I disagree with someone, but they don't deny facts and they can acknowledge a fact but give me a fact in response, we can have a true dialogue about the problem. That is so much more substantive, and I think that person is so much more deserving of like a power, like being in power, than someone who just lies out of their ass and can just win an election. You know, like it's just crazy. It's just crazy how we got to this point. Who's next? Do you think Taylor Swift is running in 28? Go Taylor then, I guess. But I mean, I think we need to keep these kind of I don't know what you would call it, influencer. No, not influencer. He's not an influencer. He's just a. I mean, he was a celebrity, but what do you call it? Like a. I don't know. I think these kind of figures need to stay out of politics, and it should be people who used to run, like politicians, like seasoned politicians who run, or historically old people, or not old people, I guess, but like people who are truly militarily experienced with leadership in the military, like sergeants and things like that. Like that makes more logical sense for those people to have power if they're able to properly articulate why they think they deserve power. Like, you know what I mean? Like prove to the American people why they deserve to be the person running the country than someone who could just lie and just get up there, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that is really important. To like show facts. I guess. Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying.
I think we've been able to come to a productive dialogue about election integrity, how the decline of trust in our elections have come about, how individuals are being attacked through the weaponization of our government, and how we may be able to regain the trust of many in our current politics.
And that's our 2 cents. And as college kids, that's pretty much our whole budget. Catch you next time.